Hi, I'm Jack Doxy with the recap of a great rivalry weekend. Let's start Alabama and Auburn, an absolute thriller in the Iron Bowl. Final score, Alabama 55, Auburn 44, but Auburn had a 36-27 lead at one point, a 33-21 lead. There's really a great offensive performance, and again, I think the tides have turned in the SEC from it being a very defensive league in 2011. Remember the game of the century, LSU and Alabama back in 2011 when it was 9-6 LSU. Maybe it was kind of like that in 2012 too, but in the last two seasons, I can see the SEC turning from a defensively dominated league to an offensively, or a rather offensively oriented league. So no upset there. Auburn falls to 8-4. Alabama goes to 11-1. They will face Missouri in the SEC championship next week. Moving on to Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State gets the 42-28 win. It was close. Give Michigan credit in what most likely is Brady Hoke's final game in his fourth season as the head coach of the Wolverines. But bigger news is that J.T. Barrett breaks his ankle out for the season. We'll see how Ohio State does next Saturday against Wisconsin in the Big Ten Championship. Also, some sad news today as Ohio State defensive lineman Costa George was found dead in a dumpster. Apparently of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, so obviously that's a lot bigger than football. And but two big things for Ohio State overshadowing the win, which is certainly significant for them, even though they look, on paper Ohio State should have blown out Michigan, but you can never underestimate the power of a rivalry game. Throw out the records in a rivalry. Florida State and Florida, Jameis Winston was awful in the first quarter, throwing 3 first-quarter picks. Overall, he threw 4 interceptions on the day. But that Florida State defense was able to hold. Florida had several offensive chances in the first quarter to really take control of the game. They had to settle for 3 field goals. Then Terrence Smith had a big pick six late in the first quarter to make it 9-7. Florida State, Florida was in it the entire game, though, and the Florida State continues to struggle but find an ugly way to win. Final score there was number 3 Florida State 24, Florida 19. Oregon goes into Corvallis to play Oregon State and gets the blowout win 47-19, so they roll into the Pac-12 championship game against Arizona. Some surprises, speaking of that Arizona in the Pac-12 South, some surprises. Stanford on Friday, they went down to Pasadena to face UCLA and blew out the Bruins 31-10. That's really surprising. Brett Hundley just kind of took himself out of that game, apparently, and then Arizona able to get the win over Arizona State. Now I have news that Samaje Grant will not start at wide receiver for Arizona after a arrest for driving under the influence. And he's a big weapon for Arizona, so we'll see how that game goes Friday night. Let's see. TCU gets the blowout win. They made a statement against Texas. I thought that Texas had a chance to win that game. The Longhorns must have improved from earlier in the season and won 3 straight, but the Horned Frogs rolled in on Thanksgiving night and blew Texas out. The Egg Bowl taken by Ole Miss 31-17. So Mississippi State falls out of contention for the SEC West crown and for the college football playoff. It looked like a magical season, really, for Mississippi State and Ole Miss at one point. Back in early October, when October 4th was the big day when you thought, oh, these Mississippi squads could be undefeated, going into the Egg Bowl on November 29th. When that was the day that Mississippi State got a blowout win over Texas A&M, Ole Miss beat Alabama, and it was the biggest day of college football in the Magnolia State's history. And the game, ended up not meaning a whole lot, because even if Mississippi State had won that game, Alabama, with their win, still would have taken the SEC West by virtue of that head-to-head on November 15th. when Alabama won 25-20. Marshall. It was a great game in Huntington on Friday. Western Kentucky goes in, beats Marshall 67-66. It was 49-42 at halftime. You just don't see that, you know. That's the kind of game that's fun to watch, you know. Maybe you're a little tired from a nice night out on Thanksgiving or going Black Friday shopping. That'll wake you up, like a game like that. So that's my college football recap for the week. I'll hopefully come to you with a preview of Week 15's action, several conference championship games: Arizona, Oregon, Alabama, Missouri. Kind of a de facto conference championship in the Big 12 in Kansas State, Baylor, Wisconsin against Ohio State in the Big 10 championship, Georgia Tech, Florida State in the ACC championship. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention Georgia Tech's win over Georgia. Georgia Tech ties it up on a 53-yard field goal at the end of regulation, then gets the win on an interception. So good for Georgia Tech. 4-0 the ACC against the SEC, because Florida State also got that win over Florida. Louisville beat Kentucky, and Clemson snapped their 5-game losing streak against South Carolina. 5-game losing streak in the series, not on the season. All right, I'm Jack Doxey. I'll hit you up Friday maybe with some more picks before the Pac-12 championship game. So I'm Jack Doxey signing off.